Where'd he go? Oh, he's over there, Senator Ronald, who stood on the State House steps for long periods of time. How long?
48 hours.
48 hours, non-eating, and really trying to bring attention and awareness to childhood trauma. The American Academy of Pediatrics defined adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, as a stressful or traumatic events that occur during childhood and are strongly related to a wide range of health problems, including obesity, heart disease, alcoholism, and drug use. According to the 2017-2018 National Survey of Children's Health, almost 600,000 Ohio's children reported facing at least 2 adverse experiences. This is a staggering number and a testament to the sheer quantity of traumatic experiences our children are facing every day. We know that half of all lifetime mental illnesses begin at the age of 14, and so we must do something to catch the signs and focus of preventing more serious issues down the line. We also know that ACEs are more common in communities of color, and that our children in those communities are facing great barriers. To that end, the American Psychological Association recognizes that racism is another cause of childhood trauma. It is crucial that we make this evidence-based distinction and keep in mind that while children of all backgrounds are affected, Black children and other children of color face these experiences at higher rates. We see in our neighborhoods, our classrooms, and everywhere in between, our children are suffering from what is happening around them. And the consequences are devastating. I've seen in my 25 years in mental health profession, also working in the area of working with kids that were abused and neglected. I've had several group homes for over many years, and seeing those individuals come in and seeing all the adverse experiences they had. And just yesterday, I went over to one of my tenants' home, and the next door neighbor stops me and she says, "What is going on with all of this shooting? For God's sakes, Gibbs School is right down the street." And every other week they're having to sign alarms on shutting down the school because of shootings. And you're hearing this, and they're saying, "What can you do, Representative West?" Childhood trauma, shootings that's happening in our neighborhoods on a regular basis, and kids are in school. What are they experiencing? Much of this work that we dealt with youth, I can tell you it really hits my heart and my Noah that something needs to be done, and we need to continue to stop politicizing this trauma around African American children and children of color, and really start hitting it on front. And that's why I'm so appreciative of Ronald for bringing this issue to the table and making a stand for these young people. The time is now to raise this awareness on how destructive childhood trauma is and treats the issue like it's a crisis that it is. That is why Rep. Upchurch and I are introducing this resolution by calling more attention to childhood trauma. We sincerely hope that we can better inform the public of the severe consequences of trauma response care and how minority communities have been particularly affected by trauma. The legislature, in partnership with the DeWine administration, has already stepped up to provide more resources in children's education and behavioral health needs. Nevertheless, much work remains to be done to ensure happiness. And I will also say, Vice Chairman Manning, of course, obviously he passed away. He brought this issue to me before Ronald did and said, "Thomas, we got to work on this." And as you guys know, we passed House Bill 12, Prevention Health Network, right? And they're working on issues right now in prevention. But this is something that we need to make a statement and say that this is an issue that continues to plague Ohio and plague our community abroad. So we have to address that issue. So, you know, I want to always send my love to Rep. Manning because he made a major impact on this committee and, of course, the state of Ohio. With that, I'm just going to shut up and let my co-sponsor come on, Rep. Upchurch.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Lips, Vice Chair Holmes, Ranking Member Boyd, and members of the Ohio House Health Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on House Concurrent Resolution 25. This resolution urges Governor DeWine to declare a state of emergency on childhood trauma. My joint sponsor has already outlined the alarming number of traumatic experiences that our children face. This resolution will be the first step in a collaborative effort to address the crisis of childhood trauma, not only in African American communities, but also other marginalized communities as well. In Cuyahoga County, which is where I represent, they have been working towards developing programs and policies for children exposed to violence since 2009. In 2011, the Cuyahoga County Department of Public Safety and Justice Services and the Cuyahoga County Defending Childhood Initiative received a grant from the federal government to prevent childhood exposure to violence, reduce the negative impact of this type of trauma, and increase public awareness of childhood trauma throughout the county. The Cuyahoga County Defending Childhood Initiative can be viewed as a national model for a streamlined service system to address children's exposure to violence. Declaring a state of emergency on childhood trauma will generate public awareness for an issue that has been overlooked for far too long. This declaration will emphasize the need for the state to develop programs that identify and treat PTSD conditions that negatively impact childhood development. This resolution will also shed light on how systemic, and institutional racism has contributed to the ongoing trauma within minority communities. It is critical that Ohioans understand how our very laws and institutions can result in trauma that impacts children for the rest of their lives. We must do more to ensure that our children can live happy and healthy lives in our great state. Thank you, members of the Health Committee, for allowing me to give sponsor testimony. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Representatives, thank you for testimony. Committee members, any questions? You're wore out. The committee's exhausted. Representative Swearengin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony and bringing awareness to this very important issue. You know, in your opinion, and Rep. West, in communicating with, your constituents, any ideas why this is happening? Is this more prevalent than it was in the past, less, or what's the sense out there in your district as to why these things occur in the first place?
Well, again, as you indicated, as we had indicated, we believe that systematic racism is a major role in this. And we also believe that, and this has always been going on, let's call it like it is. It's interesting because when we had an interesting party meeting, and we called in all the professionals, the mental health professionals, and I says, how come we're not addressing this? This is something that's been going on for many years. And it turned out that the mental health professional said, Mr. West, I am so happy that you asked that question. And they were thrilled because they know that it exists, but that was not their mandate. Now it's time for this legislator, this body, to say something to the masses that this is important and that they should start looking at this childhood trauma, and more specifically, minorities that are faced in this problem in much alarming rates. Would you like to address
Well, I agree with Representative West. This is something that's been going on for quite a while, and when I look at my district, which is one of the most impoverished in the state of Ohio, the poverty is a symptom of a variety of things. From poverty can lead to alcohol and drug abuse and violence. And all of these things have a domino effect when it comes to exposure to children in my district. So it's something that's been going on for a while. It's unfortunate it took this long to address it, but it's a step in the right direction.
Representative Kleitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the representatives, the other thought that I was wondering if you guys have looked at with this issue is really how Ohio has clearly given so many parental rights, and that those parental rights are starting to put our children at risk. And I say that, I know Rep. West and I share a constituent that the stepfather of a child was put into jail as a predator And when he came out, his parental rights were still in place enough that he could put a child back into risk because they could still try and get parental rights. The court stopped it, but the trauma that that child went through to have to go through the court system to not allow that parent to have rights is an issue that Ohio needs to address. And I think that that's happening with domestic violence issues. That's happening with parents that, have a magistrate in the middle, and parents are having to put their children through extra mediation to make sure that the parents have equal rights. I feel like we've lost the children's advocates in the system. And so I wonder if that's part of what, you guys have talked about it with this bill or with this House resolution also.
So that's obviously going to be on the table. We are still in the very preliminary stages of discussing the resolution and what we're looking to accomplish with it as we move on. But certainly as we move forward, that's going to be something that I think that Representative West and I are going to be more than willing to address.
Yeah, and I think that you're going to find all types of trauma that comes out of this, and specifically that is definitely an issue. If you look at COVID-19, and right now you have a lot of kids at home, you have a lot of parents at home, you see that now domestic violence is going up, you see the abuse going up. We just heard about suicides. That's right now is when you see a lot of these kids are experiencing different things going on with a lot of family members, some that we will never see. But I think one of the things is moving forward is let's put this out on the table. Let's declare this a state of emergency. And the reason Ronald wanted this to be called a state of emergency, because he wanted to get people's attention. It wasn't that let's just address trauma. That's what we love to do. But he wanted to bring it forward and say, listen, this is happening to minority children in alarming rates, and let's make it a state of emergency, because that's going to get their attention. That's what he said. And that's why we are here today. That's why we're standing tall on behalf of this issue, not just for him, not just for that mother and that family that you're referring to, but all of these adverse responses all over this state of Ohio. We need to put an end to this, and we need to start making everyone know that this is a real thing. And we need to make certain that these kids are, successful and that they thrive and that they survive, right? Let me shut up because I'm getting too passionate.
And I just wanted to add to that too. Make no mistake about it. This is not just something that's happening in low-income urban areas, but this is something that's also happening in low-income rural areas too. Rural areas and urban areas have a lot in common, believe it or not, and childhood trauma and the exposure to violence at early ages is one of those things.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Committee, additional questions? Representative Upchurch and Evangelist West, I want to thank you for being with us this afternoon. I was going to stand up and start doing amen or whatever you wanted me to do there for a second.
You can shout.
If you take this serious, did you bring a handout for the committee like Representative Brent? Because she cared about her bill. She gave us the takeaway.
I tried
That
to
was
tell
his-
him, but,
I'm just telling you, right?
he's a little too conservative.
Okay. Clearly, we'll probably be hearing Representative Brent's bill before we'll be hearing this resolution again. If
I
that's
got
how
some
you're,
hand warmers in my
that's
car.
how you're going to treat us. Yeah. Gentlemen, I do appreciate you being here, and I apologize for the long delay in getting you up there. So thank you, gentlemen. Committee, with that will be the first hearing, conclude the first hearing on HCR 25.
Can I get a chance to talk for a minute on it?
Sure. Come on up. Yeah. We'll need you to submit. Do you have that, what you're going to read to
I
us?
don't.
That you're gonna-
I
okay.
don't. I didn't know the process.
Okay,
I
please
can
give your
sit down.
name and address.
My name's Amy Samuelson. I'm at 489 East North Broadway Street.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Samuelson.
Just listening in, hearing today, it's interesting the different topics we talk about, and I would think as a legislature in Ohio, what you're looking at is probably, we want to grow the economy, we want to reduce crime, we want to figure out how we handle police, we want to help with mental health, we want to help with drug use, we want to help with health care. To me, if we bring everything up a level and we ask the question on each one of those, how could we solve that? It would be to heal. So we have trauma that's going on not only in the lower income communities, I would say it's everywhere. I would say if we look back in our history, there's been trauma from the years of racism, there's been trauma from the years of LGBT not being included, there's been years of, I don't know, KKK, or I was married to a Marine and Army veteran who served in Somalia and Iraq. My boyfriend, my fiance, just committed suicide 2 months ago. White male, blue eyes, 6'2" wingsuiter, bodybuilder. He had severe trauma from the age of like 5 on, and I saw what it did to him. I see friends of mine in all communities that are depressed, they're anxious, they're scared. They're scared because of COVID. They're scared because of our current economic environment. There are people that have been raped. There have been people that have witnessed murder, that have been abused physically, have had even just a, for me, my trauma was that my parents really didn't emotionally attach to me. I didn't know that they loved me. I really didn't. And so I had an opportunity to take a year off to assess my entire life because I had gotten to the point in my career where I was offered the time, and I've learned so much. And what I learned was, it's all trauma. It's all trauma. I am depressed is what I was doing all my life. I am depressed. Let me take some serotonin. I didn't realize that I had like 47 different traumas. And what worries me is all of us with our individual traumas are now raising these children. And these children it's just going to be handed on and on and on. So if we put some focus, we make it a state of emergency, we handle trauma, imagine what we can do to grow our economy or to work together and solve all these other problems. I might be like Miss save the world or whatever, but I just wanted to say, for me, just hearing Ronald's story, it brought me to tears. My own personal story, I never thought that what I had was trauma until my therapist drilled it into my head. This is trauma. All of us probably have one we've suffered. And if we didn't have somebody that was there to help us, help to identify it, we might be one that is lost. I know myself I sought out drugs, I sought out sex, I sought out, pride, I was very, very successful in business, so whatever it is to get yourself to feel that homeostasis, or you end up in crime, you end up in prison, I don't know. So anyway, I just wanted to have an opportunity to speak because this has such a significant impact on my own personal life, my kids, so many people around me. Thank you very much.
Certainly,
and I don't
Ms.
have anything
Sanders.
written.
Thank you for sticking in there with us all day and for being with us and sharing your story. Committee, any questions of Ms. Samuelson? Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
That will constitute the first hearing on HCR.25. Committee, anything else to come before the committee today? Thank you for your longevity, for your patience, your perseverance. Thank you for hanging in there. I appreciate several of you sitting through all of this. Thank you. Committee adjourned.